Hey y'all, it's your girl Jada Rayne, and welcome back to the third episode of No BrewSh. Before we get into the topic for today, I want to introduce a new guest and then somebody you're already familiar with. So, new guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Terrence, and that's it. Nothing really.
You ain't got nothing? Like, you know, where you go to school, what you study?
I go to school at IU. I'm studying theater with a minor in game design, and I'm a Nicki Minaj stan.
Boy, that's gonna make for some good conversation. And you guys are familiar with Khaila.
Hi y'all, I'm Khaila. You know, I'm a senior here at Indiana University, majoring in journalism, and that's pretty much what you need to know. I'm also an artist. Yeah.
Oop. All right, well, what I'm sipping on is the brown sugar latte, so that's the drink for the day. And then for the topic, we're talking about stan culture. The term of stan came from the 2000 video Stan, of course, by Eminem. And it was a video that detailed this obsessive fan of his. And then from there, this idea of stan culture kind of came about. But it really kind of got popularized now with the advent of social media and things of that nature. So we're kind of talking about, you know, what stan culture looks like for us now. And first, I want to kind of ask you guys, are you familiar with stan culture? I would hope that you are if you're here. And if so, what do you know about stan culture right now? What are some of your just general thoughts before we dive in?
Yes, I know about stan culture, and I think my experience so far with stan culture has been very good. Very good, very eventful. I mean, I love it. So,
what do you think about this? Just general thoughts.
I actually respect stan culture to an extent because it's just like they'll do the work that I'm not going to because I'm more of a fan. Like they'll know the receipts, the dates, this and that. I don't know all the info. Like I'm just there. So like they do the work I'm not going to. So I respect it in a sense. So,
right.
Yeah.
What fandoms are you guys like? Do you know like the name of these fandoms or which ones are you familiar with?
I'm familiar with the Barbs, of course. And then there's different ones for different artists, like
the Army, the Navy.
Yeah, the Army, the Navy, the Beehive.
The Navy is kind of chill though.
Yeah, the Navy is chill. They be begging for that album for Rihanna though.
Okay. sis is stressed. Did you see
exactly. She's tired of them.
Yes.
She's not about to make an album. Get on my face.
She doing everything else but that because they pressing her.
Okay, but we need it. See, that's where the stand was needed. We need the Navy to get the new album. So you kind of right. You kind of right with that one. So do you guys feel like you're a part of a particular fandom, or do you feel like you stand anybody? Yes. And if so, who?
I stand multiple people, actually. Multiple people, multiple groups. I love it.
So who do you stand?
Nicki Minaj, of course. I stand a lot of K-pop groups, and then like smaller artists, if you know Isaac Dunbar, I stand him. I stand like Troye Sivan, Conan Gray, Reese King, Stan, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. And then who do you stand?
Well, you know I love female rap and stuff like that. So I'm a huge fan of a lot of those artists. But my all-time favorite, Jungle Pussy, I get a little Stanny, you know.
she got a little giggle. She said, "Oh,
yeah." I get a little into it. I literally be all up in her comments, yes, give me more.
I be seeing your comments pop up because I follow her now. They be like, Khaila,
Instagram be snitching on me. You can see me in her comments. They be like, I see you in Jungle Pussy comments today.
They're like, okay, that's what you say.
So how do you choose who you stand? What is it based on? I mean, yeah, you like their music, but is it you could like somebody's music over here and think they have dope music, but you don't necessarily stand them. So how do you decide?
Well, for me, it's a lot of different factors that goes into it. It's okay, yeah, I like whatever you originally do. If it's me seeing a model or something, I'm like, oh yeah, I like these. But then I try to get more into their actual personality and their interviews and how they are on social media and communicate with people. Because if I don't like the personality aspect of you, then no, I'll stream your music on YouTube. I'll go on Apple Music and give you 25 cents, and that's about it. But it ain't nothing else.
So it's the money aspect, the support monetarily, and then it's also just
the money aspect is more of less I'll give you money because I like you, and right. I just want to be able to support the art and the effort that you're trying to do because I like that. But if I don't Well, that's a lie. There are people I don't like
Rewind.
that I do stream. Like, I don't like Cardi B all that much, but I will stream Bodak Yellow.
Right. Okay.
So like, but it's a lot of different things. Like this, for me to actually stand, you actually have to like, kind of like the personality that you're putting out and like more stuff that you're doing other than just like your music and like or your 2 pictures that you took in a magazine or something like that.
What about you? Like, how do you choose to stand somebody?
I feel like if you're like personality, like I think it's a personality thing. Like if it really resonates with me, I feel like with Jungle Pussy, it's like yes, she's a female rapper, but like her lyricism kind of speaks to me in a different way. Like, and then like also like she's like very like healthy, like the life choices she makes and stuff like that kind of inspires me. You know, like I'm vegetarian now and stuff like that. Like she just does like certain things. Like I don't know, I just feel like she's like a hero. Like I don't know, like she just like the way she like expresses herself, like it like resonates with me in such a way, like especially as a black woman, like this black woman and her like being unapologetically herself inspires me to do the same. So that's why I stand her that much, is because like her doing whatever, wearing whatever she wants, being however she wants, and like just being very like transparent and like who she is, kind of like makes me want to do the same. I feel like a lot of other artists might not be as real as they are, like with their music. I feel like her music, the music Jungle Pussy is the same as Jungle Pussy without the music to me. You know, sometimes artists like are different than their music, and I feel like across the scale, like she is like unapologetically herself. Yeah.
I definitely feel like it's needed to stand, especially black female artists, because they don't get the same amount of support, especially when you're looking at like the landscape of like rap music, which is male dominated. So I do think like stan culture kind of helps propel these women in a way as well and give them the support that they deserve. So I think that's like a positive side of it. One thing I kind of want to touch on, because you guys both said like their personality, but is it like, do you really know these people just because they present something on social media? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, is it the interviews that makes you feel like you're connected with who they are as a person? Do we really even know them as a person? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what do you think?
I think to the extent that interviews are, you get a little bit of how they are, but of course they're gonna like try to present themselves in a better light, to be like, oh, people are gonna see me say blah blah blah, and I'm trying to get you to buy this. I'm trying to get people who aren't like stans of me to go to my concert or something because they know a couple songs or something like that, right? So like interviews itself doesn't really, is more of like a smaller aspect of it, but I think the way, because of social media and the way that is, people are able to go on live and sit there for an hour or something like that and like actually have a conversation with you, and you actually can like tell how they are. So it's a little bit more of like of that, and like how they actually interact with the actual fans and stuff like that I like.
That's true. I like that, because I feel like with interviews and stuff, from a marketing standpoint, it's something that you have to do. Whereas like you said, live seems a little bit more personal, but then people are using lives too to promote certain things and promote songs and stuff like that. So you have to wonder too, how, I guess it depends on the artist.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because if you know like your come up or whatever has come through social media, you're of course are going to like do a lot more lives. You're of course going to start trying to promote music on those lives, because you're like, oh, a lot of people see me because other people were like, oh, go to Terrence's thing, blah blah blah. He talks about da 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 da, and you go on there, right? So then that's a part of it, but at the same time, it still, I think, it still gives that room for them to be themselves in the same unapologetic way, because you can only be that like fake like that for so long before you slip up and people see you. You know what I mean? So like you can do like months and months of lies, but if you're gonna be like, hi, I'm super smiley all the time, no, sweetie, ain't nobody gonna see that. People gonna see through that for sure.
Yeah, realness definitely gives like longevity in the career sense. Like people want to see the authentic you. And then like another thing is just like you, of course I don't know Jungle Pussy's like in and out, like I don't know her like that, but like kind of like when you're listening to multiple albums, it's like you kind of like are growing with them. Like you can feel that growth in a sense. Like Jungle Pussy's first album and like maybe like singles and stuff like that in the early stages of her career are completely different now. But like it's still like that same her in a sense. But like you can tell that she's evolved and matured in certain ways. Yeah. So like I feel like you're like you kind of feel like that connection. Like you're growing as well, and maybe their music inspires you to grow in a certain direction. So I feel like no, you don't know them like 100%. You don't know what they eat for breakfast. You don't know all of that. But like in a sense, you just like, I feel like people feel that connection because they see the growth. Like they can see that they feel like they're growing with them, like kind of thing. Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to, we were just talking about this before the cameras came on, just talking about, can you stand somebody that's dead or passed away? Because they're not in that social media area where you can connect to them in that personal way. And for me, like, I guess I stand Tupac after y'all said that I might be a stan. And I guess I could kind of see that with what you're saying, as far as like, even though he's not here, you feel connected to him through the music and the evolution and the messages that he's speaking. Where do you distinguish between being a fan and a stan? Like, where is that line? Because I feel like stans sometimes can come into obsessive territory.
Well, I think depending on like how you would define obsessive and stuff really is different. Like, of course, I'm not like trying to stalk sis.
But
some stans
they do, but
they make the other
but
stans look
they already have that. But people who I believe, I ain't got no degree in nothing that says anything about this, but I think people who are that obsessive and that and stalk people anyway already have that obsessive nature to begin with. So they regardless of whatever are going to be obsessive over whatever it is. But I think because of the way that social media and everything is, you see those cases of people a little bit more, because like if you're like, that's weird, other people see it, you share it, and you're like, yeah, that is weird, and then it just keeps going and getting it, so like it just becomes more popular because it's more like sensational.
But it's like, where do you draw that line? Because you have some stands, and some people don't think there's anything wrong with this, like leaking people's numbers, harassing people online,
that's
partaking in bullying. Like, to me, even that is a little obsessive. You're not stalking the artist, but I think you're going too far for somebody who ain't really gonna hand you a check or really do anything for you at the end of the day besides release great artistry. But you know, other than that.
And even stans go a little as far as to like, I don't know, like I remember seeing this tweet. I like remember when Beyonce was like, guys, stop being mean. They were like, mind your business. Like,
they'll turn on you in a minute.
Exactly. Like, you tell Beyonce to mind her business? Like, what? Like sometimes it goes
like, you gonna
too
take
far. Like, even like,
I agree.
I'll see people that like, they'll say like they stan somebody, and then even they like kind of like talk to that person like they crazy, kind of like. Baby Mother is another like female rapper that I follow, and like sometimes people like her fans, let's call it, if we're calling them that, like they like talk to her like they're crazy, and they demand work from her like she's some type of like machine. Like, she's still human. I think that's the point. I think like sometimes like there are, I don't think all stans are this way, but some stans make it look bad on the other ones. Like, there are stans that like kind of forget like this person is a human too, and they kind of like need some type of like respect as a human. You can't just talk to them like they're crazy, demand work from them all the time as if like they're not working hard. Because as an artist, like when you're pouring yourself into your craft, like that's a lot of energy you're putting into that, and you have to restore that energy. You can't just be producing albums back to back to back to back to back, because it's not going to be the same quality.
And there's a lot of work that goes into that.
So that's why so many like artists go into hiding like within those years, because they're trying to recover. Like, I feel like in that space, like when you're producing art like that, like, and I don't know, the stans be going too crazy. They be demanding. That's why Rihanna tired. That's why she tired.
But it's like, if y'all want something good, y'all have to wait on it.
Exactly. Be patient and stuff like that. And it's just like, you forget these people are human. They have lives, like, outside of their craft and stuff like that. They might have issues going on. You never know. So it's just like they forget that they're human, kind of thing.
And as an artist, I feel like through that production period, when you're trying to, like you said, make good art, you know, you're pulling from different sources of inspiration. You need that time to kind of recoup and get things together, or you may not have that spark for that next good idea, and you don't want to put out, a lot of these artists, you know, they don't want to put out trash because they know the expectation is high for them. But yeah, I don't know, I kind of feel like with this stan culture too, well, what were you going to say? Because it seemed like you had a point, and I feel like I cut you off, so go ahead.
Honey, I done already forgot it.
Dang, I forgot my train of thought. I feel like with stan culture, sometimes it's not just the impact on the artist, it's also an impact on the other people that are affected. Like, I remember that story, I think that's when they told Beyonce she needed to mind her business. I think it was this story. It was I think Jay-Z was talking to some lady. It was like the wife of some NBA
Yes.
team owner.
They was all up in her comments with
And
the
they were
bees.
like, they found her number, leaked her number, sent her death threats, things like that. And the woman was like crying because it's like, I mean, you don't, at the end of the day, you don't really know these people. And to be doing all that just seems very drastic to me.
Yeah,
it's
it
like
is
there's
very
other
drastic.
people that end up being impacted. I feel like even more so than the artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. They be ready to fight. The stands.
They do be ready to
They
fight.
be like,
I'm not going to try to defend anybody on like trying to do any of that foolishness, but I do think the reason for that is in the sense that I can see it from like a bar perspective. I think the reason for that is a lot of the times since standing culture has become like a big thing, it's always like other people coming in trying to attack you or say something about the artist that you like. If you've been liking Beyonce since Destiny's Child or whatever, right? That's a long ass time to be liking somebody. So if someone's like doing something to her and you feel like ain't nobody else really given the right narrative or the actual narrative and like talking about like the actual facts and like what's going on and actually defending her like she should be defended, you feel a little bit more protective of her. And then you trying to get out there and be like, well, ain't nobody else going to do it, so I might as well motherfucking do it. And then you start trying to fight.
But it's more than one person spreading that narrative, and then they're bullying the other person that has a counter narrative, and then beefs get started.
I don't believe in I feel like a lot of stands like cause beef between artists in a sense.
Like the Cardi and Nicki
they
thing?
go hard because the artists go hard. One, I just feel like I feel like it's disrespectful in a sense just because like to compare Cardi, who has been in the game and doesn't even write her own raps, to Nicki Minaj, who has been in the game for like a minute. Like, I think that's disrespectful. So I was like low-key turning into a bar. I go hard for Nicki Minaj just because she's a black woman. And like when it comes to black women, like I do get a little standish because it's just like, who's gonna protect us? So it's just like I have to come in and be like, come on now, come on now, y'all. Like
even with the Nicki Cardi thing, I think there's a lot of factors, so I don't want to get into that because that's a whole debate in itself. That's a whole debate. But I will say I do think stan culture definitely helped perpetuate and extend that beef past what it was. Like after the whole situation happened at the Met Gala, even after that whole situation,
it was
I kind of feel like it's even now there's still a back and forth between the both fan groups.
It's a shit show.
And it's like they just pull up stuff. Oh, even like the littlest thing. Oh, she said such and such, so she must have been talking about her. And it gets to the point. It's just like that's when I feel like it gets out of hand. There's one negative side to these fandoms and stan culture that I kind of want to address. And I know you guys were saying, you know, a lot of times it's because you feel connected to that artist. But then there are people who really like an artist but really hate their actions. Can you really separate the art from the artist?
I don't think you can. That's why I've been disappointed in Nicki Minaj lately, just in like her dating choices. I'm gonna just be honest, like I don't really like that.
Don't.
Okay, I don't like that. I've been disappointed in that, not as far as her craft because she's very good at her work. I listen to the Queen album and this and that. I still follow her. Like I don't know, like you know what I mean, like. She looked good, like she rapped good. Like I'm not attacking. Okay. I see it in your face that you're ready to come in my neck.
He about to defend.
But like sometimes it's hard to separate. But then like I was having a conversation with somebody and they were like, we always blame women for the things that their men do. Like nobody out here attacking Kenneth like about what he did or whatever. They immediately associate Nicki Minaj with what you call it. But when Jay-Z did that NFL deal and people were mad about that, they wasn't attacking Beyonce, was they? Like
no.
I feel like for some reason there's this special thing with Nicki Minaj where they like attach her to the men in her life. But to be honest, like she has had like a repeated behavior of like I feel like working with 6ix9ine and working with Chris Brown a lot, like men that constantly disrespect women in a certain sense, and then you're dating. It just looks bad on her, kind of a thing. So like, but also we all often like I feel like she often like receives the short end of the stick regardless. Like, but in this, I'm trying because I know you about to take my head off once I'm done. Like, so like so I feel like. I cannot. It's very hard for me to separate the art from the artist. Sometimes it's just like because if I do it I don't separate the art from the artist for like, let's say Chris Brown, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's trash in a sense to me, like, as like a person of his actions and stuff like that and the way he disrespects black women, and I just don't feel it. So I don't listen to his music because it's hard for me to detach the two. So I have to keep that same energy across the board. I can't pick and choose who I'm not going to hold accountable for their actions. So I try to hold Nicki Minaj accountable for her actions. It's such and such. And if Jungle Pussy came out tomorrow and said something like homophobic, transphobic, then like that's going to affect my stand, like my like the way I like feel about her in a sense. Like, I'm going to hold her accountable. I'm never not going to hold you accountable. If you do something problematic, like, I have to hold you accountable because I can't just pick and choose and be like, oh, well, I don't like you, so you did this, and that. Like, no, like, that's just not, I just feel like it needs to be across the board. You have to hold these artists accountable. Even if you love them, you have to hold them accountable.
But people don't hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And kind of to the Chris Brown point, or even like the R. Kelly thing.
Yes.
Like, I feel like you said, people kind of pick and choose who they're going to support and who they're not. And you do, but then that brings up the question of how bad does it have to be how bad should the action be to stop supporting them altogether?
That is true.
That becomes the question.
How bad is the action?
What could they have done that is, at that point, when do you say, I'm done supporting you? Obviously, I feel like with the Chris Brown situation, R. Kelly, that's a completely different conversation. But I mean, with a lot of these artists, we don't really know what they do behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying?
I will say for me, right, the thing with Nicki Minaj, she has multiple times come out and like clarified about it, about the stuff with him overall and like how, and like the actual history and the story behind that stuff before. So as somebody with that, I think that that I separate people. Okay, I don't separate anybody from their actual actions that they do. But if they say, "Oh, this is actually what this is how such and such is learned. This is how I learned. This is da 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 da," I'll take it into consideration and be like, "All right, you've actually done something to try to improve yourself or try to like come from that. I'm not about to continuously." Look onto your past and be like, okay, so from now to the day that you die, you're gonna have to address this every single time, right? So, but like with Chris Brown, I don't listen to his music either like that. Baby, I don't even know the last thing he made, but to be honest, but with him, I don't know if he has done enough for me to feel like he's come a long way from the way that he's done, from like what he's done and what he's been doing. So that's why I don't stand or even like look at him anymore. And that's just something that I also feel like you can't really separate the artist from the art, because that is literally saying that you support whatever it is. If it's a pedophile doing anything, you'd be like, oh, bro, I can't give him the money anymore. Yeah. If you're like, oh, such and such did this pedophile did this, but I really like the movie that they made, or this I'm still gonna give them my $29.99 or whatever it costs. And you're just like, okay, so you're saying, oh, I allow it.
But look at these Hollywood directors. How many of them have been either convicted or there's allegations about them, partaking in sexual assault, sexual harassment, or pedophilia, all under the umbrella, and then people are still watching their movies. Are we separating the art from the artist in that case? Is it different when it's music? You know what I'm saying?
I feel like it's a lot harder to like pinpoint. Like, I can't name like 10 directors off the top of my head, but I can name 10 like, because they're more so in the public eye. So I feel like people aren't informed about the things that people do.
Like a lot more personal, because Nicki Minaj, you see the face. Jungle Pussy, you see the face. Like, you going to see Jungle Pussy in concert. But if you go and see a movie, you don't see Tim Burton anywhere in
But you never know. If they're a certain type of way, could there be general tones within their film of certain ideas? You know what I'm saying?
That is true.
So
it's like,
that is true.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to that extent, anything, that's when I think if the director or producers or whatever makes it gets harder with movies because there's so many people involved in that, right? Like, so some people might not actually know about it, or know them to know anything about it, or they might hear something, they're just like, well, I can't really do anything because this is my intro job and I'm just trying to get money and I'm trying to get my face out and I'm just trying to do what I'm trying to do, right? So to that extent, we can't fault all of them, but I do feel that the issue becomes with that is so many people feel that if you say, oh, don't do this, it's like you're forcing them into like not being able to support something, or you're trying to make them follow your rules or your point of view and stuff like that. So they get a little bit more tribal in the sense of being like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I want to support who I want to support. You don't know if that's true. Oh, I don't know. The Me Too movement is doing this, that, and the third, and people doing this, that, and the third, and we too politically correct.
I think for me, I don't participate in stan culture or even cancel culture to a degree.
I don't.
That's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing. That's a hot ass mess.
For me, I don't put these people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you're a celebrity. That's the problem. I think we put these celebrities on too much of a pedestal, and we expect too much from them when, essentially, like you said, they're still human. Especially with, like, for example, the Jay-Z deal that you had brought up earlier. A lot of people were mad at him. I didn't get upset. You know why? Because I don't expect much from Jay-Z as an artist.
He's been like that. He has been like that.
Right, but what I'm saying is, hold on. But what I'm saying is, as somebody who's benefiting from capitalism, and I'm not saying if we don't know what he's going to do with, this deal or not. So I don't want to say that he's going to do one thing or the other. But I think my issue is people expecting too much from him when he is an artist. Specifically in the Black community, we don't have a lot of leaders. And so sometimes we look to these entertainers and people who are famous in a leadership light, and I don't think that should always be the case. I'm not saying some of them can't use their platform for good, but should we expect all of them to be doing that?
I think the thing with Jay-Z is that, yes, he's an entertainer, but when the last time he made anything, but let's not even get into that. But also...
What? No. You gotta go with that one.
Like that.
Right.
He got some hits.
Okay, you might have some hits.
Some?
You might have some hits, but when the last time you did anything recently? Exactly. Okay, bye. Other than having to do it with Beyonce.
Dang, you do it, Jay-Z, so dirty. You didn't listen to 444?
I'm not going to do this with you.
That was it.
To being like
He don't like Jay-Z.
That's all that is.
I know. I don't like a lot of people. But the reason people put him up on a pedestal or like try to treat him as a leader is because my man came into it pretending that he was going to change some stuff, that he was like being more pro-black, right? So if you come in with that and you say, oh, the new path that I'm doing is we're trying to be more pro-black, more uplifting to the community, So when you do something like that and work with the NFL, and when they have consistently been oppressing Black people or people of color, period.
Yeah, it just looks fishy.
It looks fishy, and then people get upset at you because now you're like, this is me. This is me.
But are we surprised?
And then you pull the mask off and you're like, nah, I was really Pennywise the whole time. So
I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't hold his feet to the fire, because I feel like even his fans have kind of like said that. But that's the thing, like, you have to be able to, if you're going to be a fan, I do feel like you should critique to a degree, but then there's a fine line with that too, because I feel like social media just has allowed people to just get in people's comment section and going off on folks, like.
And that's because there's no consequences to social media. You don't actually have to put your face to it. You don't have to put your name to it. So no one can come up on you and say, oh, you said X, Y, and Z. You did da 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 da. So it's like there's none of that pressure or that like any of that to be like, oh, I can't really say this. So people feel very emboldened to just say whatever they want to say.
Yeah, they like, and it's like that human aspect. Like sometimes I just like. The internet is full of bullies. Like, why are y'all so angry? Like, who did you need some hugs growing up? Like, I'm confused.
Some of them. Listen, I don't want to be this person, but some of them ain't got no life, and then they just be excited
to. You click on the page, and it's like 2 followers, and then like a little picture of something like a banana, or I don't know. It's just weird. Like,
I believe a lot of them people who are that aggressive online don't feel like they have an actual voice in real life to be able to say what they want to say. So when they get onto the internet and they have other fans with them behind them and be like, oh, this is my community, then they can say whatever they want to say.
I saw this study by Pew Research. They were saying like 59% of bullying is cyberbullying, and then like 41% is like offensive names or something like that. And I wondered, it kind of made me wonder, like, I think that was from like 2018, if contributing, I mean, obviously there might not be a direct correlation, so I don't want to say that like I done studied it, but I do feel like I feel like stan culture could have a lot to do with that. Because I feel like, listen, a large percentage of bullying that I see on my timeline, is related to memes too, but I think sometimes stan culture definitely falls into that. You can't criticize anybody without somebody having something to say.
Sometimes people think that their fave is be above critique, like they can't be criticized.
Yes.
Like, and I feel like everybody's fave can be criticized. Like, because at the end of the day, like, we're all human, so we're not perfect, but then also like holding that artist accountable and being like, hey, like this wasn't cool is like something that is kind of necessary. We should want to hold certain artists accountable, but then like there's like this thin line, but like between like critiquing people and just outright just being like a little ruthless and hateful, and like it's just a bit much.
But even in the cases where it's like it's not, I want to kind of touch on that Wanna's World thing. Do you remember that? It was a black editorial writer, female, and she wrote about Nicki in a respectful way. And I think, and it's not a critique on Nicki and it's not a critique on the woman, but the fans. Because the fans kind of came in and just attacked the journalist, like attacked that woman and got her fired from her job. Like, it's stuff like that.
Well, I wonder what the article was about. What was it about?
I read it. It was just saying she wanted different type of content.
Oh, like from her age, like it was about her age.
Yeah.
I remember that. I disagree with that article too, but I wasn't about to attack.
But
that.
I don't feel like she came at it in a disrespectful manner.
But okay.
Yeah.
And as a music somebody, if you're in that field and you're critiquing, I feel like you have that right.
And I don't even think Nicki was that pressed about it.
No.
Like Nicki probably didn't.
Actually,
was she?
I will say this.
She had to
let's get off the topic.
Let's run for the hills because the bar.
I do have a question though. Yeah, right there. Because let me stop for.
Was Nicki that pressed about it though, or did her fans make it to where she was pressed about it?
Tag in. I just want to say first that if I think we are so aggressive as Barbs because it seems like from a very early start that she has always been getting pushed down, right?
Yeah.
So if for the past 10 years or so, whatever, she's been popular, we have been consistently fighting back about for people about her, right? About every little thing, about being like, oh, she's a little Kim clone, she's a Remy Ma clone, she did this, she did da 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 da. And every time you can say what you want, Mama already I saw the face. Mama already said she was inspired by Lil Kim and Remy Ma. She gave the props that she had to give. But when Sis came out of jail, nobody was checking for her. So she felt some type of way and felt like she had to start a beef.
This
but
is not a Nicki Minaj episode.
No, but
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I do feel like you're needed in order to, like you said, change the narrative of what people say about her. I do think she deserves and needs that support. I do feel like sometimes it becomes borderline too much. But I get what you're saying. But to orient the discussion in a different way, I do want to know, do you guys feel like that stan culture could be dismantled, or possibly even should it be done away with? Like, is it needed? And can you get rid of it?
In a sense, I feel like I don't know if I'm a little in the mix of the middle, because just like to a sense, like I feel like we don't have a lot of leaders, and that's where these things come from, where people put these artists on a pedestal, where they're above critique and this and that, and like I think that speaks for itself, that we kind of need to either like find that leader within ourselves, or like sometimes I feel like a lot of people who are like, who might be like the obsessive, like crazy stan, I guess, if that's what we're calling it, there's something wrong with them in the inside for you to be that mean or like to be that cruel towards somebody else. But as far as like, in a sense, like I said, I respect it because they do the work I'm not gonna do. We need the receipts, because without the receipts, like these false narratives of certain artists would like continue, and like they would be perpetuated in a negative light. Because there are a lot of artists that like misinformation with social media, like gets spread like this. So people will like instantly say something about something, and like it'll blow out of proportion, and it might not even be true. Exactly. And then people will get canceled, like this, that, and the other. And you want these false narratives. I feel like the truth deserves to be told. But in a certain way, I feel like, in a sense, like, y'all ain't got to be taking people's heads off. Like, y'all don't have to be so disrespectful, so hateful. And that like comes from an interpersonal, like that's the kind of person that you are. I'm not like, I feel like I'm like solid within myself to where I don't have to spew hate at somebody when I'm trying to defend. When I try to defend any artist that I like, whether that be Jungle Pussy, Nicki Minaj, or any of that, like I don't say it in a hateful way. I bring the receipts, and you can say what you want about that, but I'm not about to start attacking you, coming for your lace front or whatever I don't like about you. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna do that.
I think then you have to clearly define what a stan is, because to me, if we're going based off of that 2000 Eminem video, I don't know if y'all ever seen it, but I'm gonna need y'all go watch it. I feel like if you're going off of that video, then what you're describing is not a stan. It's a supporter or a fan.
Yeah,
A
and that's
stan-
what I am, so like I can only speak from that.
And I feel like even these people who consider themselves barbs, I feel like some of them, or believers, or if people even do that anymore, I don't know, if people, Beehive, I think there's like, even within those fandoms, there's fans and there's stans. I don't feel like they're all stans in my opinion. I don't think people really understand what a stan is. So I feel like we just kind of throw the term around now in a way that we didn't used to. I think there just has to be, so I feel like kind of with that being said, you can get rid of stan culture.
I think a big thing with it is like, to some extent, the artist should step in eventually, or at some point, and like try to talk to their fans about how they address other people and like the type of narrative that they want them to do. Because Taylor Swift, her fans aren't that rude and ruthless to people, and all that. Like there are groups of people or fans or fandoms that aren't super rude and like ruthless or whatever, right? Yeah. So I think to some point they just need to stand in. But I also don't think standing is ever going to really go away, just for the fact that like there is so much access and so much to these artists, and like there's always people are always trying to make that personal connection if it's a small artist with the people that do support them. So those people are going to become stans because they're like, oh, I've been with you since before you got famous and da da da. So I don't really think it's going to go away, but I do think what needs to happen is that there needs to be some type of talk about like how to stop being disrespectful and rude to people.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are getting a little too personal with these artists, and I feel like they deserve their privacy as well from their own fan base. Even when it comes to relationships, like you guys were talking about. I mean, it's kind of like I imagine an artist probably has a very love-hate relationship with their fandom, I would imagine.
Of course.
You know.
You always come first.
But it's good that she has y'all.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
I would be too. Y'all be going for her neck too. I'd be like, dang.
We understand each other.
Well, I want to thank my two guests for coming. It was a wonderful conversation, very entertaining. And thank you guys for tuning in for this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about mental health. I'm really excited for that, kind of bringing a fresh take on it, so you don't want to miss out. And I will see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.